about the history of the brand Arnold Son since 1764, it is important to know that that brand started at that time in London with the decision of the owner and watchmaker, master watchmaker, Mr. Arnold. The gentleman was quite clever and interested in developing his know-how, his knowledge, and one of his targets was effectively to work with some master watchmaker like, for example, Mr. Abraham Louis Breguet, the famous, well-known master watchmaker from France. So they have been working together very closely, and that gave obviously a very strong boost to the sales of Mr. Arnold. One of his other targets was to be close to the king, actually at that time the George III, and he found a very interesting way which we could name the press contact. He offered one of his first minute repeater that was located in a ring. He offered that particular watch to the King George III. That automatically created a huge buzz around the king, and that improved the brand awareness of Arnold Son. But he was not only interested in those type of development, he was also thinking about industrializing the production, i.e. at the time it was important to remember that the watchmakers were producing between 3 and 4 watches per year. But the demand on the market was, for example, from the Explorer, with a minimum of at least 3,000 watches. So by producing 3-4 watches per year, it gave him no alternative than to find industrial proposals or solutions. One of those solutions that made him quite famous then was to improve the quality of the production, but also to subcontract the movement or part of the movement to some numbers of watchmakers in the city of London. That demultiply his production and then make him the main supplier to the British Royal Navy. He was working so close at the same time with Abraham Louis Breguet, the famous master watchmaker, that when he died, Mr. Abraham Louis Breguet offered his first tourbillon in an Arnold case to the son of Mr. Arnold. So that's a kind of summarize about the history of the brand and Arnold Son. So now maybe I will present you the novelties so far. And one of the novelties that I have here is definitively a key success in the collection. It's the TB88. 88 because you have a double 8 on the dial, and it's interesting the Chinese because they are really keen on the number 8. It's a stainless steel version or a rose gold version. You have a double barrel that gives you more than 100 hours power reserve. You have a balance wheel here on the side, and on the other side you have the dead beat second or the true beat second. It's interesting to know that the true beat second was made at that time, at the time of Arnold, was made to supply an efficient and accurate watch to the explorer, navigator, and people who were traveling around the world. If you compare to the sweeping second that was doing that way, it was not possible to measure the time at the second. By working out the true beat second, that particular way of indicating the second or the time, it gave a very, very accurate and precise movement. So that was the key issue of the dead beat second. And Arnold became one of the masters in that particular segment by coming with the dead beat second. Here we have another interesting development. It's the tourbillon. You can see at the bottom at 6 o'clock. The finish is typical English with a typical moustache, as well as the typical British waves. The treatment of the cage of the tourbillon is also specific to the British finish, and that automatically makes the watch totally different. I will now stand up to present you the other models like the TBR, which is one of our best seller already now, although we have not started the deliveries. That particular model, which is a rose gold version, is confirming the automatic movement that we launched in June this year. And if you can see here on the dial, you will see the counter hour minute on the side, but you have also the famous dead beat second or true beat second, which is the DNA of the brand, and added to that the date retrograde. There are very rarely watches that are able to sell two complications like this, i.e. the dead beat second as well as the retrograde date. You have it in stainless steel or, as I said before, in rose gold. That's a novelty. We start the deliveries by the end of the month of June. The last, which is another interesting subject, is the DBG or the DBS. It's a double counter giving you either the GMT time or the sidereal time. The sidereal time being the time of the stars. It gives a more glamour to the product. The interesting thing about that particular watch is the fact that you have at the starting point at 6 o'clock a double balance wheel, double barrel, and double escapement. When you come to the top, you have only one crown to rewind the two movements at the same time. So it's a mix between a double movement and a single movement. The interesting thing is that you also have an indicator at 12 o'clock that gives you the day or night indicator. And here you have the version there, GMT, that is the basic GMT that we can produce on the market. Rose gold, stainless steel, and that closed the presentation of the Arnold Son collection. I can show you some of the model here, which confirm that we definitively want to work with the past, but to project the past into the present and why not into the future.